lawyer Egbert Fable, he's also with us. And we have the CEO of the GNPC, Dr. KK Sapon, he's also here with us. We have the Deputy Minister in charge of Petroleum at the Ministry of Energy, Dr. Mohammed Amin Anta, he's also here with us. And of course, the Minister himself suggests to you the seriousness with which these matters, the energy matters, are being looked upon by this current administration. The Honorable Minister is here, Honorable John Peter Amewu. Without much ado, Honorable Minister, may I again acknowledge you. We are going to do it in two parts. There are technical people from the Energy Ministry, the Petroleum Commission, and the Director for Petroleum Upstream will take us through a brief introduction. We need to appreciate and understand the oil and gas industry. It is quite technical, and it is our view that a lot of lack of understanding and appreciation is characterizing that industry. So even before the minister comes to deal with the policy issues that he will address, let us take some time to, through you, the media, educate the people of Ghana a little about how the industry works. And I can believe that I start with our colleague from the Petroleum Commission, lawyer Egbert Fable. He will give us an overview and a background. And that's another presentation, and then the Honorable Minister will come and deal with next policy issues. Thank you very much. Honorable Egbert Fable, or Mr. Egbert Fable.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Minister for Information, Honorable Minister for Energy, Honorable Deputy Minister for Energy in charge of petroleum, colleague CEOs, staff of the Ministry of Energy, ladies and gentlemen of the media. I'm here this afternoon as a precursor to the Honorable Ministers of Energy's main statement, and my responsibility is to give a foreground to what constitutes a petroleum agreement, what constitutes a plan of development, the relationship between the Petroleum Commission and the Ministry of Energy with respect to petroleum or PODs when they are submitted and require approval. So without much ado, with your kind permission, I'll proceed. It is provided Section 10, subsection 1 of the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act 2016, Act 919, and I quote, that a body corporate shall, unless otherwise provided in this act, engage in the exploration, development, and production of petroleum, except in accordance with the terms of a petroleum agreement entered into between that body corporate, the Republic of Ghana, and the corporation being the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. Based on this requirement of the law, which used to be under the repealed PNDC Law 64, for any operator undertakes upstream petroleum activities in Ghana, from exploration, discovery, appraisal, development, production, abandonment, and decommissioning, it must do so in accordance with a petroleum agreement. A petroleum agreement therefore defines the rights and obligations of the Republic of Ghana, investor-contractor parties, and the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, which represents the commercial interests of the Republic in any such petroleum agreement. The petroleum agreement in respect of which this press conference has been held is known as the Deepwater Tunnel Cape 3 Points Petroleum Agreement. It was signed between the government of Ghana, Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, and the company known then as Ameriada Head Ghana Limited on the 8th day of February 2006. The question is, what happens after exploration when a discovery is made? As indicated earlier, after exploration, which is a commencement step in upstream petroleum activities, sometimes a discovery of petroleum is made. When a discovery is made in contract area, the extent of the reserves discovered ought to be appraised to establish whether it is commercial or not. Assuming that an appraisal of a find is made and it is determined to be in commercial quantities, the next step for the parties involved in a petroleum agreement will be development and production of the find. Thereafter, one may ask, what do Ghana's laws provide for to protect Ghana's interests when there is going to be development and production of a find? Section 26, subsection 1 of Act 919 provides, and I quote, that the contractor shall develop and produce petroleum in a manner that will ensure the maximum long-term recovery of the petroleum. Section 20, subsection 2 of Act 919 also provides, and I quote, that the contractor shall ensure that the development and production of petroleum is conducted in accordance with best international practice and sound economic principles, and in a manner that will ensure that waste of petroleum or loss of renewable energy is avoided. So why is a POD required? To meet the requirements of Section 26 of Act 919 that I've shared with you, a plan of development and operation, otherwise known as a POD, is required. Loosely, a POD can be said to be a plan by which a contractor commits to develop a discovery within a contract for the production of oil and gas with its attendant operational costs. A POD is thus the plan by which the building and installation of facilities for production, drilling of development wells, construction and installation of equipment, pipelines, facilities, plants and systems in and outside the contract area which are required for achieving production, treatment, transport, storage and lifting of petroleum and preliminary production activities are carried out prior to the date of commencement of commercial production, and all related planning and administrative work, and the construction and installation of approved secondary and tertiary recovery systems. The right to approve a POD is vested in the Honorable Minister Energy per Section 27, subsection 10 of Act 19, which provides, and I quote, that the plan of development operation becomes effective upon the written approval of the minister, unquote. The question to ask is, following allegations made yesterday by IMANI, have they been able to prove any proof that Aker Energy's POD has been approved by the Honorable Minister of Energy? The answer thereof is a loud no. Indeed, the petroleum agreement of the Deepwater Tunnel Cape 3 Points PA also provides for a plan of development at clause 8.10 thus, I quote, if a contractor pursuant to Article 8.8 informs the minister, that is the Minister of Energy, that the discovery is a commercial discovery, the contractor shall not later than 180 days thereafter prepare and submit to the minister a development plan. Section 27.1 of Act 919 provides, I quote, that a contractor shall, where a discovery is declared to be commercial, submit to the minister for approval a plan of development and operation in respect of any petroleum field to be developed, unquote. Sections 27 and 28 of Act 919 and also Article 8.11 of the DWD CTP PA spell out what should be in a POD. This is how a POD is reviewed and a recommendation thereof as to whether it should be accepted or reviewed by the contractor made to the Honorable Minister of Energy. Section 21, subsection H of Act 919 also provides that the minister shall not approve a plan of development and operation unless the minister has received the recommendation from the Petroleum Commission and relevant agencies. Further, because of the importance Ghana attaches to local content and localization expatriate roles in the upstream petroleum sector, it is provided as Section 28.1 of Act 919 thus, and I quote, that the minister, that's the Minister of Energy, shall not approve a plan of development and operation unless the local content plan, the proposed employment, recruitment, trade, Ghanaian citizens, and the technology transfer plan have been approved by the Commission. This is a condition precedent, and as of today, the Petroleum Commission has not approved any local content plan in respect of Aker Energy's to warrant a recommendation to the Honorable Minister to approve Aker Energy's POD. On that note, respectfully, Honorable Minister, I want to bring my preliminary comments to an end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Igbefebo, and you see the technicalities involved that those of us who especially and particularly work in civil society and who intend to comment on this need to get education on. I also at this juncture want to invite the Director of Upstream Petroleum to also give us a few introductory comments and a background as we await the policy commentary from our Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Minister of Energy, Honorable Deputy Minister in charge of Petroleum, Chief Executive GMPC, and Chief Executive Petroleum Commission, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation is just to give a background, the petroleum upstream value chain that is starting from contracting through exploration, appraisal, development, and production. It's just a short presentation. When a contractor or like operator has a petroleum agreement, is entitled to do exploration within a period of 7 years as our laws stipulate. If within the 7 years he doesn't make any discovery, the law stipulates that he relinquishes the whole block and give it back to Ghana. But in the period of exploration of 7 years, assuming he makes a discovery in the second or the third, the contractor is supposed to count that discovery and come out to the minister whether it merits appraisal. If it merits appraisal, the contractor then goes ahead to appraise that discovery. Appraising the discovery is just to establish the area extent of the find that has been made, which means that the contractor will have to drill further wells targeting the geologic structure that he made the first find. In so doing, he has to present what we call an appraisal program. And the appraisal program has to be approved by the minister, and the contractor is given a time frame to complete the appraisal program. If the contractor is still within the exploration period, he can still continue doing exploration by drilling exploration wells. But he can carve out that discovery area and then work on it at the same time preparing whether he's going to develop or not, which he has to develop, because if the appraiser proves that it's commercial, then he has to develop. And that is where the plan of development also comes in. And the minister will approve for them to go ahead with the discovery, the plan of development. But I must say that there's no way or there's no law within Ghana that the moment you start appraiser, you cannot do exploratory wells. You cannot do exploratory wells, especially when you are still within exploration period. Again, after the appraiser, to be able to know that the appraiser program has been successful, it is just to try to estimate the volumes in by establishing the area extent. In the case of Pecan or Aker, they were appraising the Pecan appraiser, the Pecan discovery, and they have to drill Pecan 4A, Pecan South, and Pecan Southeast. From the result of these appraisal wells, it was established that they all tested oil in the same stratigraphic structure, which is the Turonian, of which the Pecan discovery was made, meaning that they form part of the same Pecan oil pool. And for someone to talk about dynamic communication, which person is using as an indication whether it's a new discovery or not, dynamic communication can only be established when a test called the DST, or the drill temps, or logging, wireline logging, has been done. And to establish that, you have to draw down on the oil or the well to see the pressure difference if doing the test in this well affects what happens in the other well. Then you can say there's a dynamic communication. In the present case, this test has not been done. No logging has been done. And therefore, if someone says there was no dynamic communication, this is erroneous, because the test has not been done and we cannot establish. But all we know is that these appraisal wells tested in stratigraphic structure and is part of the same Pecan pool. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our technical people. And you are hearing from the technical people, and so the truth is what we set out as a government to tell to the people of Ghana. Let me acknowledge that this minister's briefing is airing live on the national broadcaster, GBC. You can also join our social media handles. We are also streaming live on Facebook at moi.gov.gh. On Twitter, we are at moi.gov.gh, and on the website, we are www.moi.gov.gh. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, may I have the singular honor to invite onto the podium the Honorable Minister for Energy, John Peter Amewu.
Thank you, Miles. First of all, let me also add my voice to the speakers by apologizing for the delay. I also want to use this opportunity to congratulate the Minister for Information for having come up with this wonderful conference room. For me, it's really boosts my morale. I have to be coming to this room very often, you know, because the sitting arrangements and everything, it's splendid. Mr. Minister, congratulations. My Deputy Minister for Petroleum, Minister for Information, and his Deputy Chief Executive of GMPC, Dr. KK Sapon, the Petroleum Chief Executive, my good friend Egbert, my Director of Upstream, Technical Director, the media, press, all friends and invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday, as we all aware, a public advocacy think tank called IMANI held a press conference at which it sought to challenge what it thinks are various acts of omissions, commissions on part of government in respect to the plan of development submitted by an IOC named Aker Energy for and behalf of all the contracting parties in the petroleum agreement covering the Deepwater Tunnel Cape 3 Points contract area. The Ministry of Energy called this particular press conference to set the record straight, particularly to the extent that IMANI put up a total fabricated false information to educate the good people of this country. The oil and gas industry, as we are all aware, is a knowledge-intensive industry, which means that a high level of artificial intelligence is required to understand the behavior, the communication, the strategy, actions, and inactions of the industry. Those technical understandings most often not acquired through public hearsay. You need to acquire those through a higher level of an intensive industry analysis. And it was on that basis that we brought in the technical people to explain to you what some of these technical issues are about. The petroleum agreement covering the Deepwater Cape 3 contract area operated by Aker Energy was executed on the 8th February 2006 between the government of Ghana, GMPC, Hess Corporation, Luke Oil and Fuel Trade, subsequently in 2015. Fuel Trade's participation interest was set at a minimum of 2%, for which it paid an amount of $9 million with a performance guarantee of $2 million. The farming process Fuel Trade was also undertaken through a competitive platform. The contract area has 7 discoveries, namely Pecan North, Almond, Carp, Beach, Pecan Paradise, and Hickory North. Mr. Chairman, the first 5 of these discoveries are all oil discoveries, whilst Paradise and Hickory North are gas discoveries. Aker Energy acquired the interest of Hess Ghana Limited in February 2018 and proceed to continue the finished works under the program of appraisal of Hess. The question we want to ask ourselves has been thrown to the public yesterday was the fact IMANI portrayed to Ghanaians that Ghana is losing an amount of 30 billion US dollars. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, let's interrogate this assertion IMANI. IMANI tried to alarm Ghanaians about the potential loss of 30 billion US dollars to the country if government failed to negotiate a new petroleum agreement with new terms with the Deepwater Cape 3 Point partners. This is absolutely false. It's an untrue story and is very, very alarming story. Aker Energy, on behalf of its partners, announced after a successful appraisal of Pecan field recovery, a significant oil find as captured below. Based on existing subsurface data from seismic wells drilled and an analysis of the Pecan 4A wells result, the existing discoveries are estimated to contain gross contingent resources in situ of a maximum of 550 million barrels oil equivalent. How therefore did IMANI arrive at the valuation of a field value at 30 billion US dollars? I stated earlier on, this industry is a knowledge-intensive industry and therefore required a higher level of artificial intelligence to undertake some element of valuation. It's IMANI, in its simplest process, in an attempt to analyze a very complicated issue, multiplied the proposed reserve estimated of 450 million barrels by an oil price of 65 US dollars. Ladies and gentlemen, this simple arithmetical analysis exposes the weakness in IMANI's analysis as well as its poor understanding of the petroleum economics. This analysis is not a commutative property of arithmetic. It goes far beyond A plus B and B plus A. The 450 million barrels, ladies and gentlemen, of oil equivalent are what we call gross contingent resources, which are the potential resources available in situ, of which cannot be recovered under the current technology. IMANI wants us to believe that the amount of 400 million barrels of oil equivalent will be produced, but refuse to explain to Ghanaians how all of this amount of oil will be recovered. In Ghana today, our average crude oil recovery rate is about 25%. At this rate, the field will value at a cost of about 7.3 billion, assuming an oil price of $65 per barrel. So if you use this basis, the revenue that we accrued will be based on a 25% recovery. We're working with Aker Energy to enhance the rate of oil recovery to about 40%. So what it means is that we are now even deviating from the previous technology of a recovery rate of 25% to 40%. So it is not all the oil value at 450 million barrels that will be covered under the current technology. It's only about 25% of that. And what we expect IMANI to do is to multiply the price of oil estimated $65 by a value that will be recovered. not the value that it's in situ. Ladies and gentlemen, current technology that Aker is bringing in will enable us to recover far in advance of the 25% recoverable that we have witnessing. The difference of the 25 and the 40%, therefore, is rather an addition that we are going to enjoy under the current terms of Aker technology. So Ghana, with the involvement of Aker, is rather gaining an additional value as a result of increase in technology and applications of a higher-end oil-enhanced recovery mechanism. Ladies and gentlemen, is Ghana losing money as claimed by IMANI? It is curious how IMANI reasoned that Ghana stands to lose 30 billion if we do not negotiate a new petroleum agreement. There is no basis for a new petroleum agreement. This is because the work program that was done by Aker Energy formed part of an appraisal program based on an existing petroleum agreement. This works, the drilling of Pecan 4A, Pecan South, and Pecan South East wells were all part of the appraisal program submitted by HES and inherited by Aker Energy and the partners, but had to be postponed for 2.5 years, as we all know, as a result of the provisional ruling of the Special Chamber of the International Tribunal, the Law of the Sea, ITLOS, that amounted to an injunction freezing the new drilling activities within the disputed area, part of which was the Pecan field. This provisional ruling, which was delivered on 25th April 2015, affected almost about 69% of the contract area and part of other contract areas as well. Following this development, the then Minister for Petroleum reached an agreement with the parties to the Deepwater Cape 3 contract area that the plan of development to be submitted 10 months after the ruling on the ITLOS case. This was also further delayed by 8 months in order to include the results of the entire Pecan appraisal in the POD. The continuation of the appraisal program has led to a significant gain for Ghana because it established a new find which formed part of existing Pecan oil pool mixed by HES. IMANI stated with certainty in its presentation that there was no dynamic communication without providing a shared evidence of their assertion. As we speak now, we can confirm that the wells drilled encountered the same geological reservoir system as the Pecan field. Aker Energy is still evaluating how the wells are connected. Therefore, we wonder the basis for IMANI's conclusion that there is no dynamic communication between the wells, because the word dynamic communication is a common word, so anybody can decide to use it. Ladies and gentlemen, IMANI was also not truthful to Ghanaians when it stated that Aker drilled the Hickory West as an exploratory well. Hickory West, ladies and gentlemen, has not been drilled. The well that IMANI claimed has been drilled has not been drilled. It must be stated that as a country, we operate within the law governing the petroleum agreement. Therefore, any petroleum find, when produced, will be shared according to terms of the applicable petroleum agreement. The Deepwater Cape 3 Tunnel Petroleum Agreement provides a crude oil sharing mechanism in addition to the benefits such as taxes, of which under the existing agreement, Ghana's share is estimated to be between 55 to 60% of net oil produced. It is important to state that these benefits are spread over the full life cycle of the agreement. Therefore, for anybody to contend that these were exploration wells drilled outside the exploration period, hence any petroleum find from these works required a new petroleum agreement with new terms, is grossly misinformed. The finds from this appraisal wells will just confirm the aerial extent of the original Pecan discovery. That is why their names are Pecan 4A, Pecan South 1A, and Pecan Southeast 1A, showing their relation. IMANI's curious trend. Ladies and gentlemen, IMANI's claim of failure by government to obtain additional shares. This is again very interesting. It is important to note that GNPC Exploco was given the opportunity to exercise its right to acquire a 10% commercial interest in the block. GNPC Exploco failed to exercise that right when it was due in 2015. We are equally curious why GNPC did not exercise the right at the time. Records, ladies and gentlemen, however, show that provision was even made in the GN budget for 2015 and again repeated in 2016 for the acquisition of this interest. However, for what reason, the then GNPC administration did not apply the fund to pay for that interest. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I think it is your duty to help me find out and establish why GNPC in 2015 and 2016 refused to exercise its right of preemption or to exercise its right to back in at 10%. If they had done that, that 10% will currently be reflecting in our gain. I wish to urge you, ladies and gentlemen of the press, to take the trouble to establish the reason and where that money was applied to in 2015 and 2016. Aker Energy's plan of development and actions taken since it was submitted. Aker Energy submitted its plan of development and operation to the Ministry of Energy on the 28th of March 2019. On receipt of the plan of development, the Ministry of Energy wrote to the Petroleum Commission requesting it to review the plan of development and make a recommendation to the Honorable Minister of Energy. Reference of the plan of development to the Commission was done in accordance with Section 28, Section 1 of the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act 2016, Act 919, which provides that the Minister shall not approve a plan of development and operation unless the Minister has received recommendations from the commissions and its relevant agencies. The Petroleum Commission, on that basis, proceeded to do a thorough review of the POD and submitted an advisory paper to the Honorable Minister of Energy by a letter dated 17th day of April 2019. In reviewing the plan of development, the Petroleum Commission relied on the provisions of Section 27, Section 28 of Act 919, and also Article 8.11, Section 8I of the Deepwater Cape Treatment Petroleum Agreement. The provisions, the law, and the petroleum agreement cited constitute 29 conditions precedent checklist that had to be satisfied by Aker Energy. These conditions will need to be satisfied and also approved on the recommendations by the Petroleum Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, based on a thorough study and review of the Aker's petroleum development, the Commission came to the conclusion that Aker Energy's plan of development cannot be approved in its present form. As indicated earlier, the Commission, by a letter dated 17th of April 2019, transmitted an advisory paper made out of the reasons why the POD cannot be approved to the Honorable Minister, stating, among others, that Aker Energy must be made to review the POD to comply with the necessary provisions of law, also as in the Petroleum Agreement. The Honorable Minister considered the Petroleum Commission's advisory paper and agreed with all reasons it gave. Subsequently, by a letter dated the 24th day of April 2019, communicated to Aker Energy that the plan of development cannot be approved in present form, and further asked them to review their plan of development and resubmit same within 45 days. These matters, ladies and gentlemen, are matters of record. Yet, my good friends in IMANI, without checking whether any such steps had been taken since the POD was submitted, claimed at its press conference yesterday that even though it is aware that recommendations have been made to the Honorable Minister, it did not know whether Aker Energy had been written to. IMANI's fear, as it claimed yesterday, was that if the Honorable Minister does not write to Aker Energy, the 30-day limitation by which any failure to direct a revised POD, sorry, let me take it again. These matters, ladies and gentlemen, are matters that everybody knows about. But IMANI, without checking whether any such steps had been taken since the plan of development was submitted, claimed at its press conference yesterday that even though it is aware that a recommendation had been made to the Honorable Minister, it did not know whether Aker Energy had been written to. IMANI's fear, as it claimed yesterday, was that if the Honorable Minister does not write to Aker, the 30-day time limitation by which any failure to direct a revised POD to be submitted will mean that the POD shall be deemed approved. Well, the Ministry of Energy received the POD on 28th day of March 2019 and wrote to Aker Energy on the 24th day of April 2019, directing that Aker Energy revise the plan of development within 45 days because the POD cannot be approved in its present form. A simple calculation on the passage of time between 28 March 2019 and 24th April 2019 show that it was 28 days within the 30-day limitation. In any event, a plan of development is a very important document, and it's only fair and just and equitable that in asking for it to be reviewed, the reasons must be very cogent, well-reasoned. Aker Energy has, as of 24th day of April 2019, received the decisions of the Ministry of Energy for it to submit a revised POD, and as the fear of IMANI expressed is most unfounded. Ladies and gentlemen, a simple phone call to the Ministry of Energy would have allayed the fears of IMANI that the people of this country would never be misled. If he had just called the ministry to find out whether the POD, the response have been done or not, Ghana would not be put to such a very alarming stage as we are today. For the avoidance of doubt, it is provided in Article 8.13 of the PA that after 30 days following its submission, the development plan shall be deemed approved as submitted, unless the minister has before the end of said 30 days period given contractor a notice in writing. Maybe this was the cause and fear of IMANI, but he got it wrong again. The Petroleum Commission rightly advised the Honorable Minister of this time limitation in its advisory paper, and the Honorable Minister fully agreed with that advice and accordingly wrote with a full reasons why Aker of Development ought to be revised and submitted again. Once again, IMANI did not check with the Ministry of Energy whether it's aware of this provision, and if so, what it was doing about it. It is disappointing that IMANI has acted in the manner it has in this matter, especially when there had been an earlier engagement with them a few weeks ago on these matters, and the knowledge they have that the Ministry of Energy is open for all manner of inquiries and engagement. Before they came out with this press statement, because of the open door policy that we undertake in the ministry, we did invite IMANI for some discussion. And it was clear during the discussions that most of the issues they were raising lack credible and artificial intelligence. Irregular extension. Look again what IMANI has done. I respected this think tank so much. IMANI accuses Aker Energy of having a unilateral determined in the plan of development when it will cease productions without permissions from government. It also alleges that Aker has extended the period of the petroleum agreement from 2036 to 2049. Ladies and gentlemen, this is untrue. Just to check and see whether an agreement is extended from 2036 to 2049 can be done with, everybody can do that. My little daughter can even do that because she can clearly read between the year 2026 and the year 2049. The extension of petroleum agreement is a preserved, reserved, authoritatively done by only the representatives in the House of Parliament. IMANI, unfortunately, lacks understanding and thinks that a petroleum agreement can be extended by a minister. It is false. Ladies and gentlemen, this industry is a knowledge-intensive industry and required a higher level of intelligence. Petroleum agreements all over the world, and the constitutions of our country and our law that we have does not put the responsibility on the minister to extend a petroleum agreement. It can only be extended by the House of the Representatives. IMANI again lied to Ghanaians. Condition incidents in the plan of development. IMANI stated that a contractor cannot give a precondition in a plan of development. A simple check again by IMANI would have indicated that the Petroleum Commission had already made this observation to the Honourable Minister in a letter dated 17th April 2019. And this had already been communicated to the contractor, Aker Energy. Request to renegotiate already favorable terms. IMANI again alleges to Ghanaians that the ministry had adopted a negotiating approach in renegotiating an agreement that had already been renegotiated or negotiated by the ministry and approved by the House of Representatives. IMANI sought to create that impression that the old law under which the petroleum agreement was signed in 2006 had favorable terms. Hence, the passage of the new Petroleum Law Act 919. A historical review of all oil-producing countries will show that countries that are frontier countries or countries that are emerging usually provide some favorable fiscal terms to attract investors. As the country matures and their basins are geologically de-risked and they have resorted to physical graduation to capture more benefits at that time. Ghana is, of course, no exception. Today, we are not fully a mature basin. We are still an emerging province. Notwithstanding this, we wish to state categorically that the Aker Energy and the government of Ghana are not in negotiation over the Deepwater Cape 3 Tano Point Petroleum Agreement, and the impression created that the PA is being renegotiated to give Aker Energy a favorable terms is total false. There is a complete difference between renegotiation of a PA, a submission of petroleum plan of development, and the renegotiation of the fiscal terms, as our technical people have already drawn your attention to. So it is therefore interesting and funny how IMANI come by the fact that the ministry is renegotiating a petroleum agreement. The process of renegotiation or negotiating a petroleum agreement is obvious, and it will be clear for everybody to decipher that from a petroleum plan of development. The reference to the letter signed by the former minister is in respect of a different sub-deep water tunnel petroleum agreement, commonly known as the AGM block. The attempt to relate current Aker Energy project to a different agreement is therefore misleading, if not mischievous. So the Aker Petroleum Agreement again had not been renegotiated. At the appropriate time, if the ministry is going to renegotiate any of the agreements, of course, we will draw IMANI's attention and invite input for some of these relevant civil society organizations. Aker Energy conducting exploration and appraisal in the contract area and has submitted a plan of development. Ladies and gentlemen, Aker Energy, as we are aware, drilled the Pecan South and Pecan Southeast in March and in April 2019 before submitting a plan of development. Get this thing very clear, it's very important. Aker Energy drilled the Pecan South and the Pecan Southeast in March, in April 2019, before submitting a plan of development. This is allowed under the Petroleum Agreement. However, this were not drilled as an exploratory or exploration wells. They were drilled as an appraisal wells to determine the extent of the basin. Article 8.19 of the Petroleum Agreement provides that any area which forms part of a discovery area in respect of which a contractor has been given, the minister a separate notice indicating that such discovery merits appraisal or confirmation. that same merits and appraisal. It is therefore important to note that after discovery, what is needed to be done to determine the extent of discovery is what the technical people had already explained to you as an appraisal process. And these are normal process to find extent of the basin. IMANI, in its action, claimed to establish that these appraisal processes were conducted have clearly established that there is no dynamic communication. I don't know how IMANI come by that. Even me as a minister sitting here and all the other technicals sitting here can only determine the extent of communication through technical analysis. As a ministry, I wish to inform the good people of this country that Aker Energy had not undertaken the process of determining actual communication between these two worlds. What we know for sure is that the worlds that have been established through an appraisal process has determined that the geological basins of the two worlds are very common. The involvement of fuel trade. Ladies and gentlemen, IMANI alleged that the fuel trade is owned by my own good friend, Dr. K. Sapon, and his family. And then this gentleman must be a rich man by now. If he, then he must be a really rich man. Dr. KK, as aware, it's one of the best brains in terms of what he does at GMPC. He's the chief executive officer of GMPC, and he has had very, very good experiences throughout his life. As young as he was one of the first youngest chief executives this country has produced. It is on that basis, because of his technical competence, capability, and their standing to help this country out of its current predicament, that His Excellency appointed him to head the GMPC. As a minister, I know the capability of this man, and I do not doubt his level of integrity. However, we wish to inform you that fuel trade came into the petroleum agreement during the NDC regime. At the time, Dr. KK Sapon did not know if ever he will become the chief executive of GMT. And under the NDC, we are all aware of the kind of politics that was practiced at that time. You either belong to them or you are not part of the cake. And I don't see how they were going to open the door, as His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo has opened the door to everybody. If Dr. KK managed to get his way through, then kudos. But I assure you that the current beneficiary owners of fuel trade, it's common and visible for everybody to see. All that you need to do is to walk to the Registrar General and determine who the true owners of fuel trade is. We wish to state that we, as a country, we are meant for development. As a country, we want to get everybody on board in whatever we do. As a country and ministry, we are open up to the public. And it's everybody, any particular time in time, from morning to evening, to walk to any of our offices to inquire for questions or ask questions, and then we will provide answers. We wish to state again that we have not renegotiated the Aker Energy agreement, and we are at a loss to how Dr. KK could be the chief negotiator over those negotiations when there is no negotiation. You can only have a chief negotiator if you have ever initiated a negotiation procedures. As clearly shown, we have not renegotiated the Aker Petroleum Agreement. So there's no way, therefore, Dr. K will become the chief negotiator in negotiating Aker Energy Petroleum Agreement. I want to thank all for your attention and ask my good friends, IMANI, to come to our office. As good friend. We've all been in the same civil society organization. We know how the system works. But we are best, and I am best, doing what they are currently doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister for Energy, for those revealing and insightful commentary about what appears to be clearly misinformation, disinformation, peddling of untruth, and concoctions occurred yesterday when a civil society organization attempted to engage with the people of Ghana. As we do here all the time, we shall allow for a couple of questions to be asked. Please let us stay on focus. Be minded again that this exercise is in direct response to what appears to, like I said, the fabrications and lies that may have been told yesterday. So let's stay the focus and let us restrict ourselves to the comments that the Honorable Minister has made here, or at least comments that IMANI may have made yesterday. We'll take a few questions and then we can call it a day. We know that we have the 12 o'clock news cycle. We are attempting to at least catch the 3 o'clock and the 6 o'clock news cycles. So we need to be quick about this. Yes, please pass the gentleman. You mentioned name and shoot.
My name is Joseph Akabli. I work with Joy News. My question relates to the point the minister made about the Petroleum Commission saying that it should be approved because of a failure of Aker to meet the conditions. I want to ask specific aspects of the 29 conditions did they fail to meet for using the POD, did not meet the requirement for approval.
Thank you. We'll take the next question. The gentleman in the T-shirt here, his hand is up.
Thank you very much. My name is Justice Adoboy. I work for the China News Agency. I have about 3 more questions directly from what the minister said, but I have a major substantive question, if I am allowed. One of them is when the minister said that Aker has not yet carried out a process to determine the dynamic communication between the existing wells and then the new wells that were discovered. I want to know whether that process was going to be left to Aker alone to do, or Ghana's own technical people will be part of the process. Then also he spoke about a clause in the petroleum agreement that says that 1 month after the submission of the POD, it will be deemed approved if minister has not communicated to them. I want to know whether that particular clause, agrees with what the EMP law says, the primary law of the industry, what it says. But my substantive question is, the minister stated that the opportunity was given to Exploco to acquire, stakes in the field, and budgetary allocation had been done for that. I would like to know whether that opportunity ended, what time that opportunity ended, because the minister indicated that Aker came in to purchase the rights of Hess February last year. And my understanding is that when this was being done, the price at which Aker was purchasing Hess's, rights were lower than the price at which Exploco would have acquired, the 10% additional interest. So I want to know, one, if the budgetary allocation that was given, had been misapplied or applied for something else, or that was still available, and why was this not used to purchase those rights at the time Aker was coming in?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we will take answers to gentlemen. We will take Maraba. We will take from Maraba, and then we can wind this up once and for all.
Al-Hassan min Basir ibn Hassan al-Zahrani from Marhaba. And I would like to ask the minister, is he here to do some damage control? If yes, why did he wait for IMANI to, propel this falsehood, the alleged falsehood, for coming to address us now?
All right, I'll take my time. Thank you. My name is Aker. I'm from Bloomberg. Honorable, I heard you say something regarding, is it crude sharing proposal? Can I get a bit more detail about that? And is that exclusive to, there's the Aker deal? Yeah, primarily that's the question I have.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me invite
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. My friend Joseph Akable from Joy FM, your question related to this matter of what constitutes the conditions precedent in respect of the Petroleum Commission wrote an advisory paper to the minister, if I got you right. So if you take a look at the Act 919, which is the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act of 2016, sections 27 and 28 thereof spell out all the ingredients of a plan of development. In addition to that, the Deepwater Tunnel Cape 3 Points block, I think Article 8.11 thereof also spells what constitutes or what should be stated in a POD. Now, when you combine all of those, there are some petitions and the rest, but there are about 29 in all. Some of these include a local content and localization plan, plans for gas utilization or associated gas utilization when the field is developed, also emergency preparedness plans, an HSE plan, the economics of the field, and also long-term development plans, amongst others. If you go to those laws, you find them rendered in extenso. It is those benchmarks or guidelines that the Petroleum Commission used because we want to comply with the laws of the Republic as well as the contract obligations of the party to the PA. Consequence upon which we found that some were met, some were not met, some were also partially met. And so in that state, in our capacity as advisors to the Minister of Energy in respect of field development plans, and that's rightly done by the Minister, he requested us to look at the whole POD and advice. And we did so in the interest of the people of Ghana, for that matter, the government and the people of Ghana. And the Minister, mindful of capacity that the Petroleum Commission has in relation to these technical matters and the obligation imposed on him by law to take the necessary advice from the Petroleum Commission, acted accordingly, pursuant to which, as he rightly said, a letter has been written to Aker Energy as of the 24th day of April, informing them to revise their POD to reflect all the acts of omission and also areas that need further clarification for the Petroleum Commission to have a second look at it and accordingly advise whether the revision meets the requirement of the laws of the Republic. So that's essentially what the Petroleum Commission did. I hope I've satisfied your curiosity with respect to your claim.
A couple of questions. The Honorable Deputy Minister in charge of Petroleum will do this to a few of the other queries. Honorable Dr. Amin answer. But my colleague from Maraba, please rest assured that the human intent cannot be foreseen. It's not written on the foreheads of people. The Honorable Minister would not have known that IMANI would do what they did yesterday and therefore an onslaught. We noticed that there has been some misinformation and we think people of Ghana deserve the right to be told the truth. And these are matters that are already in the public domain. The Minister has put this out on several other platforms and on several other occasions. But they have quite clearly been twisted and misinformed and so on and so forth. That is what commissioned this. It is not a case that we are not... please, Honourable Minister.
So I'm responding to this on behalf of my boss, the Minister. So is it only Aker which is conducting the analysis, evaluating the extent of communication between the worlds? Are they Ghanaian technical people who are also involved? For every petroleum agreement, there is an operator. And the operator technically has responsibility for all technical activity. They have what we call the Joint Management Committee, where the operator reports to all the other parties what it is doing. The budget is approved at that level. And so who has responsibility to carry out this activity is the operator. In this case, Aker Energy is the operator. However, for purposes of transfer of skills and technology, you usually will have GNPC second some of its technical staff to work with the operator so that we can also acquire the knowledge that the operators are bringing to bear on the development of the oil field. So that is how it works. Then there is a question on the 30-day time limitation. Whether the EMP law has the same or not. In fact, the EMP law is silent on that. The EMP law talks about submitting POD to the minister. It talks about the ministers approving the PD, but it does not indicate the timelines. Usually you will have regulations that will give those details. In this particular case, it is the petroleum agreement, because at the time the petroleum agreement was signed, even the current EMP law was not in force. And so there was a law at that time, but that law, PNEC Law 8, also did not provide these timelines. And so you have the petroleum agreement covering that area, which provided a 30-day time limit. IMANI tried to portray a certain sense of power, used by Aker Energy to force the minister to respond within that time of 30 days. But that was wrong. It wasn't Aker Energy that put it in the POD and asked the minister to respond by that time, or else the POD would be deemed approved. Aker doesn't have that power. It is the subject of the petroleum agreement. And the petroleum agreement was simply being quoted by Aker to remind the minister of the need to comply with the terms of the petroleum agreement. And so, as we speak today, the minister has complied, not because Aker put there, but because the minister is alive to his responsibility under the petroleum agreement. Also, there is a question on when Exploco did not exercise that right to acquire the interest. Why did we not exercise it when Aker Energy was acquiring hers? I get the question. The issue about Exploco's interest, the 10%, was offered in 2015. And Exploco, GNPC Exploco failed to exercise that right. And so we lost it. We lost it to hers. And so when Aker decided to acquire hers, it wasn't offered to us. If something is not offered to you, how do you acquire? And you need to further read the whole transaction between hers and Aker Energy. Aker acquired hers assets in Norway. And therefore, hers was no longer interested in pursuing their Ghana interest. And so that was added as part of the entire transaction Aker Energy had with hers. And so if it was offered and GNPC had the money, I believe GNPC would have considered. But given the current GNPC's exposure, I'm not sure if GNPC had that money, even if it was offered to them. We have a law in Ghana which puts restriction on how much GNPC can borrow. The previous government used bulk of GNPC's money guaranteeing for car power and other transactions which do not form part of the core mandate of GNPC. And as I speak to you, you may have to investigate this. The money that was provided for this, for the acquisition of the 10, may be part of the money that went to guarantee the car power and car power ship project. You may want to investigate that further. And so if it was up to us, we would have considered it. But we would have considered based on our ability to fund it. I believe MPC CEO can provide some further information on that. The last question is the crude sharing mechanism from Bloomberg, right? Every petroleum agreement has a crude oil sharing mechanism. It's a formula that is provided as an appendix, and there's a full chapter on sharing of crude oil. And you have to share is based on the fiscal terms. You have your royalty, you have your carried interest. If you have additional interest, you also have taxes in the case of the government of Ghana. And so that is well defined. Now, if you analysis of the percentage of the net oil Ghana is going to receive when oil is produced under the agreement, it ranges between 55 to 60% of net oil. Other petroleum agreements have their own percentages as far as what Ghana is entitled to. So I believe we've answered. This is not the highest. The latest we submitted to Parliament, the Exxon is the highest so far. And so we have been progressing, and this is why the minister said that as you matures and your bases are due, then you are in a better position to negotiate for terms better than what you had at the time your bases were de-risked. And so if you compare the terms of HES, the Palo Block, Cosmos, which were all signed around the same time, somebody has described this as foundation contracts, because they are contracts that have given us our first discoveries, our first series of discoveries, isn't it? So you have the deep water tunnel, you have the Cape 3 Point, and then you have HES. They were all signed at the same time. And this is why I question our opponents. None of the contracts they have signed has led to a discovery. All the contracts that have led to discovery in Ghana were those signed under President Kufuor. Those that they signed between 2013 and 2016, 13 contracts were signed by them, the highest number of contracts ever signed under any government of Ghana. These contractors under those 13 PAs were supposed to have wells, and somebody's engaged in semantics that this is exploration wells, this is appraisal wells. Drilling a well is not easy. 13 companies doing oil blocks expected to drill 14 wells between 2013 and 2016. We are in 2019, not a single well has been by them. They've spent only 95 million out of the 190 million US dollars they were to spend. People are concerned about that. And this is why the MPP government has decided to change our strategy. We are going for aggressive exploration because we need to increase our reserves, we need to increase our production before Jubilee oil begins to go on a blind phase. If we don't get additional oil produced from other wells, Ghana will be on a decline phase. And what we benefit from our oil industry, we will not benefit in terms of revenue, in terms of the jobs, in terms of the value we are adding to our industries. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, our distinguished from the Ministry of Energy. I get the sense that all our questions have now been answered. We thank you for coming. My Chinese friend, you had the most questions today. So, we.
Cosmos case, it came with the preemptive rights of Ghana. And so when Aker acquired HES assets in Norway and they were coming here, did Ghana lose that preemptive right to exercise in this case?
Well, we will take that last response. That very last response is fine. We have to meet the news cycle.
In fact, both our laws and the Petroleum Agreement never had provisions on preemption rights. What they required was prior consent by the minister and not preemption rights. And that was followed through and through.
Thank you very much. Clearly, we have people who are on top of their brief. They understand their job, from the minister through the deputy to the heads of departments and agencies under the ministry and elsewhere. When the government of the MPP says we do have the men, you can clearly see, as I'm displayed here today, that these are men and women of steel who understand their brief and who are on top of their game. May I also announce that if you check, we are saying that the April wells, they were drilled in February and March. In February and March, when you do an extempore, at a point you can mix 1 month, not in April but February and March. Take notice. May I invite the Honorable Minister for Information to close us. We are his guests this afternoon.
Colleagues in the media, chief executives, deputy ministers, Honorable Minister, we want to say thank you that you've made time to be with us. The last time I think it was the Vice President who said not one social protection program. I mean, it was the Vice President who said not one social protection program. Today you are saying not one well. I want to thank you for your time. We encourage a cross-fertilization of ideas in this country, but I think that those ideas, as much as possible, should be based on the facts, and we'd like to encourage you to interrogate those facts at any point in time. So thank you so much for being with us this afternoon, and we hope that you can help us put the matters to rest.